Hi there. We are back for part 2 with Tracy and Nixie of the ICOC mess. It's just
hot mess.
Hot mess.
Amen.
As we are talking, to give you a little recap, I knew that I've obviously had amazing therapy. I know Tracy's had amazing therapy.
Enough to buy a house with.
Enough to buy a house with. Imagine that plus everything we gave to the ICOC.
No.
We'd be billionaires by now. But what I hadn't realized, and what I love that Tracy reminds me of because of her amazing memory, is that I've blocked out at least 50% of what happened. And it's a coping mechanism. And my counselor has been helping me understand that you just, you survive and you block out a lot of things. And so talking about it, the amazing thing is it doesn't trigger me in a bad way, right, but it helps validate what happened. That we're not crazy. This really happened to us. And one of the things I'm most grateful for with this podcast is that not only is it giving us a voice and a platform, well, actually what I love about podcasts in general is that people that have been silenced and marginalized and told that that just didn't happen, or all the gaslighting that's happened just on so many different levels, not just in the spiritual community, but just in general, gaslighting humans, that when you tell your story, that you're told that you're not remembering it correctly, or that didn't happen to you. So when we all come together in the masses and we all tell our stories and they all line up,
and you're like, how could it not have happened for
we all remember the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, because Nixie just said, how could 3 people remember the same thing? How about with the numbers that we have ran? How about 1.2 million people?
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I wanted to get into. I had a professional statistician kind of partner up with people that used to be in leadership of the ICOC, me included, people that were in charge of chronicling, keeping track, and doing the numbers and running the numbers and just keeping track of the growth and the data. They all partnered up and ran. How many people have truly left the ICOC? It's at least 1.2 million people.
Makes sense.
Makes sense because at the height of the group, I'd say it was about 150,000 people. So if it's 150,000 people and it was a revolving door, and so many people were leaving, and we know because they were called followaways, and we had to track them down or show up or predict follow. We actually had to predict followays. We forgot.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Right, and
you and I did, where we were like guessing.
Okay, so we'll get into that in a second because we're going to go over the numbers and how that worked. So we had to not only predict who was going to get baptized, we had to predict who was going to fall away, so that we could recalibrate the numbers on where we would end up, right? Kind of like a gross versus net. Inventory of humans.
Every Sunday night.
Every Sunday night was a nightmare, plus our budgets.
Right.
And we had to go pick up tithe money from people. So, but what I'm getting at is if there's 1.2 million people, 333 of these people have reached out to me.
Right.
And they're telling their stories, and they're emailing, and they're texting, and they're crying, and they're saying, I never felt heard before, and I thought I was crazy, and how could this happen? Some have committed suicide. Some have had tragic scenarios, but it's a spectrum.
Right.
Some people have thrived. I've thrived. We've thrived, but some people haven't. And that's their journey, and that's okay. And it's not because they're weak, and it's not because they're sinful, as the church cult would say, that they are now following Satan, and that's why their lives are messed up. No, Einsteins, it's because it's called trauma recovery.
Right.
So they're trying to recover from the trauma. So you don't get to label them as followaways or sinful or weak, which we all know you love to do.
Weak and struggling.
They're struggling. Well, that's why this is happening to her. As if you guys have the mind and authority of God. You don't. So people have had a spectrum of different pathways and journeys of their recovery. But if there's 1.2 million people that are now raising their hand and speaking out and reaching out, feeling validated that this is helping their healing process, that's why we're doing this. And it's not just the ICOC, it's anyone who's had a cultic experience or a cultic relationship. It's helping people understand that giving over the reins and the keys to your life is not okay. And it's actually okay to take them back and say, hell no, I don't sell crazy here anymore. Bye-bye, I'm done. And then you don't get to just go on and try to cover up what you've done by gaslighting them and naming them all sorts of things. Whether it's bitter or crazy or weak or struggling or sinful or following Satan. Okay, we're kind of done with that. The gig is up. There's enough of us speaking out now that it just makes you all look bad. So how about you just stop? Just stop doing that, okay? Because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for yourself. So that's how I feel about that, Tracy. I had to get that out. Part of the reason I had to get that out was because Tracy is reminding me of so much shit.
I apologize.
No.
I don't apologize.
You don't apologize. It's good.
It's good to know.
It's good to know.
It's good to get it out.
And she's reminding me stuff of what I did. And I owned that. Yes, I was brainwashed,
Me too.
but we all own it. ICOC, you might want to try that on for size. Own your shit. And then you might do a little bit better than your shrinking numbers, okay? Because the gig is up. Anyways, okay, so let me go back into what I was gonna say. Because after that little recap of the large number of followaways that are finally strong enough to talk, we are going to take a little trip down memory lane. And we thought we would add in what I call humorous coping mechanisms about what happened with leadership in some of the leadership meetings, but also with the money. Because I swear to God, I might be a billionaire right now had I not given so much money to this group, right? So we're going to dig into that. But first, what I want to do, again, is pass the ball, i.e. Mike, to Tracy, because I'm going to have her do a recap also of her and I's relationship and how I was integral in her conversion process.
You were there when I was dipped in somebody's jacuzzi.
That's right. I was there. I was a part of the brainwashing. I was definitely all into bringing her into the cult. But I have to say, and she might disagree, but I'll let her say it. I have to say, I felt like we always had a connection.
Yes.
That it was like I was like a little sister protecting her.
Absolutely.
And there was many times, I have to say, I got in trouble.
Absolutely.
For not attacking you.
Absolutely.
Where I would say, no, I'm not doing that. Or no, that's not right.
Or not little Tracy is what I heard later on.
What was that?
I heard later on that my ex-husband at the time went to tell you the problems I was causing in Orange County. And you said, Tracy? Little Tracy? I can't believe. And when you say little Tracy,
she would do that.
I would like to add that I was 5'7", 101 pounds. I suffered terribly from anorexia and bulimia.
You were skin and bones.
I was. And I never felt like I could fit in. I'm a Latina. I'm multicultural.
Right.
Multicultural Jew. There's a lot going on here. But I couldn't fit in with the Latin sector. Am I Spanish? Horrific. Even to this day, bad. And I didn't clearly fit in with the white people who thought you could fix that nose, you could fix your boobs, we could change your clothes.
But restate that. You were told you needed to get a nose job.
I did. I was told, you know what? You could have that fixed.
Oh God. Yeah.
And
I never. And
it was not you.
It wasn't me. And if I would have known, I would have been pissed.
I think the thing is that what any cult is good at is pulling people away that are too close.
The people that will object are not in those meetings.
So very quickly, and I learned later on that I was one of the first as a married couple to be pulled into the full-time ministry that quickly. So I was converted by you.
Yeah.
And
Within 2 months.
within 2 months, a little less than that, I was in the full-time ministry with my ex-husband.
Right.
And
The
so
husband that, in case they didn't hear part one, the husband that you entered the cult with.
yes, we had been married a couple of years. I got married at 18 to get away from my family. And I, not a slight to anyone, but you can take it as you want to. When you have somebody who's maybe a Latina and somebody who's Japanese coming into a very white group, we're like gold. Because it's like the interracial
you checked those
couple.
boxes.
They checked so many boxes
checked
right
the
now.
interracial, but you've checked the Latina and the Japanese
Right,
box.
and he didn't speak Japanese, and I don't speak Spanish. I speak Hebrew now. My Spanish is a little.
That's a lot.
It's coming a long way.
Yeah.
So during that time, it's important to remember that again. I had no family at that point. I came from an abusive family. I was looking to be loved and appreciated.
You were looking to belong.
I was looking to belong. I all of a sudden had this really beautiful friend.
Aww.
I had a mother figure in the woman who converted me.
Yeah.
But very quickly, even she turned on me because I, all of a sudden, against my will, I was being raised into leadership.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't like it.
Correct.
And so it was a lot of personal jabs at my physical, how I dressed,
Appearance.
my nose, my clothes. I was torn apart.
You were.
And I didn't understand that at the time. She doesn't look like everyone else. Yeah, because I'm Latina. You just can't figure it out. I don't fit into the, were you once a model? No, I'm 5'6.5". No one's ever come for me. And I will say that I did have scholarship offers to colleges. I was trained by the Joffrey Ballet.
I remember that.
But I remember, I'm gonna.
I forgot.
Don't get mad at me.
Okay, come on.
I remember saying I wanted to go back into that industry.
Oh, I remember this.
And you said pretty girls like you are a dime a dozen.
Oh, I did not.
You did.
I did not.
And that's okay. Because later on, I heard somebody say that to
Drink
you.
that wine, Chele.
Okay, wait.
I'm going to say that again because it's really important.
Okay, say it again.
And this is what somebody else who apologized to me 19 years later said. I was told the same thing. So you just, quite honestly,
Regurgitating.
You were a parrot.
Yeah.
In all honesty,
Yeah.
you were a parrot to say, I had moved closer to Pasadena so that I could audition for certain things and
Right.
whatnot. And granted, I probably wasn't high on the talent mark at that moment. I did think later on I would find my talent in my 30s and definitely it's my 40s. But at that time, it was let's just tear you down so you have nothing to depend on but me.
That's the goal.
It is the goal.
The goal is to dehumanize you. So you depend upon the cult.
And so it was your mousy. I think you used the word mousy, but
I used the word mousy.
You did.
I did.
You used the word mousy on me. You need to change if someone's going to take you not responsible. If someone's going to take you serious, we've got to change the way you look.
Right.
And I remember, because it was during the time before cell phones, I remember you getting a call from somebody annihilating you on my appearance. And you're like, got it. And then hung up. You just need to dye your hair. And I knew that's not what I heard.
God, I feel like I have to put my glasses back on. This feels like therapy.
I knew that's not. And
I know.
I will also say my weirdest moment on the planet.
Okay,
And again,
come on.
I know you had children
No.
with him. I showed up.
Okay, wait. Back it up.
Your former church husband. And you and I were telling people what to do with their children. And you and I could barely take care of our pets.
We could barely take care of ourselves, Tracy.
And so
Let
I
alone
came
children.
at night and I was going to tell you how I felt, and I heard this conversation about my appearance. And again, as an anorexic, I was going to tell you I knew I was fat and I'm trying to work on it. I showed up at your house, and I kid you not, I've never mentioned this to you.
Come on. I'm here for it. I'm
Your
totally
church husband was singing loud at night Neil Diamond karaoke.
Nika,
Okay.
come on.
Yes, I know.
And I was like,
on.
I can't.
I know this side. I know this
She
side.
knows the story.
Now I have no friends because
Right.
from leaving to becoming the full-time ministry, you said you have to get rid of your family and all your friends now. So I gave up. I had a work
Right.
family I was very close to.
Right.
I was so close to them. And I went back years later and apologized. We've had great talks. Two of the people I went back that I was very close to it. It already died.
Yeah, that's very sad.
And she said, we knew there was no talking to you.
Yeah, because you were brainwashed.
And so it was, I had no family. Now I have no family. I come to tell you, I've overheard this conversation.
Of us talking about your appearance.
And
Okay.
how you were not rebuking me, and you were not doing
I
what you need
wasn't
to.
rebuking you hard enough, they
Right.
said.
And that would come later. And that
Right.
I would spend the next 12 years being yelled at every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I was with couples that would yell at each other so bad that I either got sick from them or I saw them throw furniture at each other.
Right.
Or whip their kids in the bathroom.
Yeah, with a wooden spoon.
And again, I try to tell people, as they say, Christian cults aren't that bad. I say, I went to workshops in Orange County by elders on how to hit babies.
Can I interject?
Yes.
I've never told the story before. My discipler at the time, our handlers, we all had handlers, came to my house and said my children were disobedient. I had 2 babies.
Babies.
Yeah. And brought a special wooden spoon.
Yes.
For me to
rod.
To beat my child with.
The rod.
Because there's a scripture in the Old Testament that says, spare the rod,
spoil
the child. Right? So she brings a special spoon because one of my children was being disobedient. And I remember I took this spoon and I go, this spoon? And I was pissed as hell. And I didn't care if I got fired because I was getting ready to resign and I was done. I wanted to leave my church husband. I took the spoon and I go, this spoon? And I go, come here. I walked her to my backyard when we lived in San Dimas. Mm-hmm. We had like a little cement partition. I took the spoon and I threw it over the fence. And I go, there's your spoon. If you want it, go get it.
And you're lucky that you had the will to do that. I didn't.
But I wouldn't have unless I was willing to quit my job.
I used it on my son.
Right.
And that technique of yelling and timeout and what we called it pow-pow at the time.
Oh, give him a pow-pow.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
Led.
You want pow-pow?
My kid knows the pow-pow.
You want pow-pow?
Led my children, and at least the first 2, into huge bouts of anxiety and depression.
Your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there was no... Later on, and I've talked to people who are still in the church that say that was my greatest sin, was believing that.
That are still in the
Yes.
ICOC.
Yes, or who have not denounced it. Because sometimes you can leave now, you can leave silently. Oh, great times. Where I leave and say, you almost killed me.
Right.
And so that was a huge thing for me. And the other thing for me was the financial devastation that was left behind. So when I had only gone into the ministry under 2 months from when I had been converted. When I went after scandal, whole other story, back into the workforce, I still worked full-time ministry hours because the elder believed I could do it.
Right. They were using you.
So normally you could only counsel or whatever 2 people. I was doing 10 while working a full-time job with a child.
Right.
And so during that time, if you wanted to be converted, I needed to see your pay stubs.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into it.
I needed to see your pay stubs so I could make sure you were giving 10% of what you needed to.
Right.
So later on, I saw a psychologist and he said, and again, he was not trained. Now I think they're more trained. I give them materials to read. I read my own. And he said, what crime is being committed? Now, as a 46-year-old woman, I can say, I know the crime, and this is the crime. The crime is we take 10%.
But not just 10%.
Well, no, we're going to move that. We're going to take 10%.
To start.
But if somebody in your group doesn't make it for that week, before Sunday, I don't know what you need to do. You need to get the 10% from everybody underneath you.
Or give it yourself.
And that included believing yourself. Now,
Yes.
in order to taxes, it meant us writing a personal check to those other people.
Right.
So then you think, okay, this is how it comes along. It wasn't until years later, we used to give what was called special missions. That was supposed to go to other countries.
Oh, I did that.
To build the church.
Yeah.
To build a church. Wait, so now I look and I'm like, oh, Tracy, it was every tax season. You gave 30%
Yeah.
of your normal tithe. It just happened. How lucky were we? It fell into tax
What a coincidence.
season. So for 13, 14 years, they got all of our tax money. Now, let's say That wasn't enough. And you wanted to be invited to the special dinner of the special givers.
Yeah, money givers.
Oh my God, I forgot.
You forgot about that.
Big money givers.
Now that
we
isn't
made it one time.
Did you?
So
made
if
it
you
one
did
time.
that every year, it would equate to be, with your special contribution, according to our tax person, 35 to 45% of what you made per year.
Per year.
There is the crime.
And but wait, you got a big fat steak dinner if you were a special giver.
Well, not if you were on staff and had to serve it.
Oh, that's true. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah.
So
we
here's the
didn't
thing.
even get the steak.
So here's the thing that
I remember,
later
oh my
on,
gosh, I
so
forgot
I
about that.
leave, so it's 21, I leave at 33. At 32, during my divorce, my ex-husband and I get audited. Because the last 2 years, we were kind of running from the church, but we still felt the responsibility to give.
Of course you did.
So we were giving, but we didn't want them to know our address, so we gave in cash. Now I know, as I know many lawyers, because not the stereotype of we're Jewish, but I have a lot of lawyer friends.
Yeah.
It could have gone by previous record, but at the time during the divorce, again, my ex-husband and I were in the gutter of life.
Yeah.
He said, go ahead and audit us. The IRS could not believe we were so stupid to give that much money.
Right.
So we had to pay it back.
Oh, so you hold up. Back the train up.
So for those 2 years, we had to give back $18,000 of cash
to the IRS.
to the IRS.
You mean your
So-
tithe your tithe money.
So I was married for 16 years.
Okay, I'm getting pissed. I'm sorry.
I waived alimony. I got very little child support. So after, again,
get in line, sister.
16, 17 years for somebody who made six figures.
Yeah.
I walked away with $532 a month because I wanted my ex-husband to carry that fee. But he carried that to pay the IRS off because they could not believe somebody was that stupid to give that much money.
I think people.
It was
yeah.
years before he could pay it off. Even I think to the close of his starting marriage, of his new marriage, and people are like, "Why didn't you get anything?" And I had to explain. I could have easily said it was his fault, but really, the bottom line is we had been so screwed by how we had been treated. And again, I run a synagogue now. I know the sanctity of being a nonprofit.
Right.
I can barely make running what I run now. But the audacity to demand 10% and to demand your taxes and above is outrageous. It is a crime. And then here's the thing. We had a couple above us. Let's call her Bev. And they mocked us. You guys have no money. I can't believe you bought a house. You have no retirement because I paid for your salary.
Right. Right.
I paid for you to go on that retreat. Because when we found out later, and this is what a friend of mine, we had a meltdown at the back of the church. It was pretty pathetic. I don't know why we just didn't think we had the autonomy to leave. So me and this other gentleman,
Because of what had been done to our brains, Tracy.
we had both had the experience that we didn't get permission to have our first children after many years of marriage. Mm-hmm. And he said, here's the kicker of this letter. The number that they tell you is they took our income
Yeah.
of peanuts and averaged it out with theirs.
Right.
So it looked like we were made to give in a living wage.
Right. We weren't.
So at the very end, when this letter came out, I was with the main...
Wait, the Henry Crete letter.
The Henry Crete letter.
Yeah.
I was with the main elder at that time. And so I stood up. 'cause
Initials.
I'm stupid.
Initials, please.
BW, RW, I wrote you a letter.
It wasn't a love letter.
Did you get it?
No, she got it. And she let me know she's sorry I felt that way.
Right. Okay.
So let's go back. Let me go back to say this.
I'm sorry
They
you perceived
stood
it
in
that
front
way.
of a group in Newport Beach
Yeah.
with our good friends. And he said, so here we have demanded to see paycheck stubs from the history of our movement.
Right.
From where I was at in the East Region to Orange County, we had demanded to see paycheck stubs.
Yeah.
We said, what do you make exactly? And BW said, the state of California says I do not have to disclose that to you.
Wow.
Because that's what Jesus would do.
And
right?
a doctor in the group at the time said, you wanted to see my paycheck stubs. What do you want to see? And again, BW said, state of California said, I don't have to disclose it. And again, his numbers were mixed in with the people who made nothing. I, at one point, did the math. I worked for 28 cents an hour.
Yeah, I know.
28 cents an hour. I not only did business things, 3 women's days, I scrubbed toilets
Me too.
of people
shelves.
and babysitted
Yeah.
kids.
I know.
I did
We all
whatever
did it.
you needed to, especially with us as we didn't have kids. We were told that we had all this time, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to see later on that and I'm grateful for where I'm at only because of my husband. And I'm grateful to see where my ex-husband is with his wife.
Your church husband.
My ex-church husband, yes. We're grateful that we even have homes and nice lives because the church did it wiped me personally
Yeah.
and my ex-husband. It wiped us
Out.
of autonomy
Yeah.
and it wiped us financially.
Right. Right.
And you can make fun of us for it. And people did make fun of us for it. And on top of it, I'm going to add in there because I feel bold today. I'm going to add in as the Latina, and I won't throw you under the bus, Chele.
No, please. I'm very comfortable under the bus.
But this has been
Right
racial
there.
talks that I've had with my son yesterday. My son, one of my sons. I have
Yes.
another son, Kaz.
Yes.
The racial things that we heard.
Right. Of course.
And nobody could say my name before. And you should keep your head where it's at right now so no one can see your reaction. And people didn't know it was racist to say my last name without sounding like they were trying to say it like they were Japanese.
Right.
That was how people said it.
Yeah. I remember that.
And I remember we had a leader, let's just call him Bob, big boy. He's very short.
RK.
Yeah. And he said, he would tell my ex-husband in the back, he would say, and who's that homo laughing over there? So when I hear people have changed, you know what? Those people who spoke like that, their asses should have been on a phone calling people.
I know.
Oh, we didn't do this and that.
Like we did. Back up.
And
like
you did.
We did.
And I have to say, and I'm not trying to, pat you on the back here. We had very little bad interaction because you were very protective of me. Mm-hmm. And I kind of was scared for you. I thought you were going to die.
I almost did.
So,
was there.
and we were separated quickly.
We were.
We were.
You know why? Because you and I banded together.
Right. And
we
so
were
they
scary
saw that,
to them.
and it was too much for them.
Yes.
So they had to separate and throw me with somebody who was horrific. Now, I will say to that person's credit, at the time of the letter, they called me up crying. I don't think they realized the impact yet.
Right.
But I was already through PTSD at that point, and I was living in Corona. I was still in the church, but I wanted to kill myself.
Right. I remember that, Tracy.
And to say, I'm in a hospital because I don't want to kill myself. My ex-husband won't come pick me up.
You were in a hospital at this point.
I
Like,
was. I was in
be
Corona
clear.
Regional Medical Center.
Right.
And nobody would come pick me up because my ex-husband would have had to report it to the church. But yet elders from that area and their sector leaders would come down to me and say, you're just having a hard time. Would you like to lead this group of couple of hundred of people?
Oh my.
And it was so painful. And so when people say, well, what damage can a Christian cult do? I'm here to tell you they can wipe out
They can kill you.
your autonomy. They can wipe out your ability, your finances.
Your ability to problem solve.
And so when I later on left the church, which is a huge thing, I actually had my boyfriend at the time. I said, follow me in the shopping cart behind me, but don't tell me anything. Because I had never been grocery shopping as a grown adult with 2 children
By
at
yourself.
33 or 34 by myself.
Right.
Because people had followed me wherever I went. When I left the church and said, I'm done with you guys, I ran up into my bedroom in the Temecula Valley, locked my door, and the cult leaders would not leave.
Right.
Knocking on my door for me to come down the stairs. They would not leave. When I got a job at the time, there's not a lot of jobs where I live. I went to pushing carts. Everybody from the church came in and mocked me.
Of course they did.
To this day, people that I was there when they got engaged, they came to my kids' party, they've come to my house, but I've never been invited to their houses ever.
Right.
I've been invited to one backyard. I will say that. I got invited to one person's backyard. Mm-hmm. And then it was no more. We're not, and people that were very close to me, the church where I lived at the time when I got divorced, my friends are very upset. This is how you treated her. This is how, and it's don't let Satan get in there. You know this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me give you this role. Do you want to go to London? Because we're having this big thing over here.
Right.
And gave my BFF at the time a position so that she could be higher in the church to get away from me.
Right, of course.
So it's all of those kind of things where people are like, well, there was no UFOs, there was no sex cult. Hey, I might have enjoyed the action. But at the time, people don't understand when the techniques are the same, it can follow you anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, and you are going to see a lot more. I've seen a lot where I live in different beliefs.
Yeah.
And I think that is so cultish. How do you guys not see it? Google it. Google.
Right.
Google. Because
right.
we didn't have that. You and I know.
We didn't have Google.
It was spiritual pornography.
Well, if you looked up anything online.
So when I got
it was
divorced, I
spiritual
thought, I'm
pornography.
going to be a rebel. I'm going to watch Sex in the City.
I love that show.
I know.
I didn't even like it, but I watched it because I was told not to. So when you can think on your own to think, and the way I left my marriage was a mess because I did not think I had the self-autonomy to say, Tracy's out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I came up with the most stupid plans on the planet to convince people and say, here's my sin. And then I didn't leave that because then they brought me back in again.
Yeah.
Let's just bring you before the church a couple of times. Let's tell every personal detail from the pulpit every Sunday until all of your friends are screaming, stop doing this to her.
Yeah.
But in the end, those people left. And I have a huge following on Facebook. JewishLatina.com. But you know what? I can forgive a lot, but I don't forget because I wrote emails to many of those people in the church. I didn't know where you were at because I heard you were struggling.
Or struggling.
Right.
Wait, what year did you leave?
I only know is I left a couple of months for you. And I'm not trying to blow your mind on this one. I've said this before. The only reason why I know that is because somebody said, someone's talking about you on Facebook.
About you?
About me and you. So your church husband at the time wrote my church husband.
Yes.
I think my wife just pulled a Tracy.
Yes. Yes.
And I was like,
I remember that.
But even the bottom,
I can't even remember the girl's name that did that.
I will tell you another time.
Okay. Yeah.
But even to the point to that is that here I came out, I had literally had, and again, he would probably say that he would do differently now.
Yeah.
But my ex-husband at the time had called my family. So I had absolutely zero people. He pulled my insurance. I had absolutely zero antidepressants at the time.
Yeah.
So I was crying, couldn't get off the floor. Look at you. Look what you've become. I had nothing, not one friend left.
Right.
People I wrote to that were my disciplers in the past, I emailed, help me, blah, 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 only contacted me when life was going well.
Right, of course.
So to those kind of things, I didn't have your email because I remember looking, but nobody would give it to me because you were struggling.
Right. Not only was I struggling, I was divisive.
You were divisive and
Yes.
nobody would give me your info.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah,
I
blah,
was
blah.
a problem for them.
You were a problem. But again, from the time I was 21 to 33, to be talked out of college.
Right. Wait, you were told you weren't college
I was
material.
told I wasn't college material. And the only people that were college material in our group were white people.
Right.
I am multicultural, Latina, Jew. I've never fit in.
Yeah.
I never even fit in with the Latin community. They don't want me either. Now they would want me,
Yeah,
right? Now that
yeah.
I know a little bit of Spanish and,
Yeah.
But I've always said I'm a Latina, I'm Jewish. This is who I am. And it wasn't enough for them.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Okay.
Right.
But at that time, when you're wiped out with everything
Yeah.
and you can't go to school, you're not smart enough.
Well, they say you're not smart enough.
And so
Yeah.
here's the thing. So at the time, later on, I met my now husband of 14 years, almost 14 years. But he was in shock to see what somebody like me had gone through. And he said, why didn't you go to college? And I said, oh,
Let me tell you.
so-and-so said I'm not college material.
Right.
And he was like, what? I was teaching art in the schools.
Yeah.
I was doing different art exhibitions. I'm a miniaturist when my house is. I do all sorts of crazy stuff, and I lead a synagogue in Hebrew. So obviously I got a little something, right? But at the time when you're told you're homely, you're not cute, you need to have your nose done, it's your clothes, no man would ever want you. I don't know what it's like to not be that feminine.
Right. Yeah.
It just every time takes a part of you away and you're left with nothing.
Right.
So when I left, I took a trip only to Corona and back from where I live, which is only 30 miles.
Yeah.
38 miles. And nobody cared where I was at. And that was the first time in my life that it happened.
Right.
But again, people were looking for me later. It wasn't until 2 years ago that I ever went on a day trip by myself from an hour away. I went to a museum. It was the only time where nobody was looking for me. I had not had the self-autonomy to go anywhere else.
Right.
Or challenge that. I still kind of went back into that. This is who I am. And maybe that comes with being in my 40s now. I heard somebody didn't like me the other day. So they can kiss my ass.
Screw you.
Yeah.
You know, you can kiss my cellulite ass. I don't really care. This is how I'm doing it since I'm doing the work.
Right. Right.
But I didn't have that voice. And I look back and I think, gosh, I had been trained in musicals and singing. I went to acting school. I went to ballet school. But when I went to this church, I was shit.
Right. But you understand why they do that, right?
And at the same time, it's like, I look back now and I lead a group of singing people. Now, granted, it's in Hebrew and who knows what it sounds like. But now I look back and think, I had something the whole time and I let them steal it from me. So there's that guilt of, that regret of,
right.
You stole that from me.
Right.
You know, and that's okay because I can own that. I have to own, well, part of me thought it was okay to do that. I let you do that because I didn't love myself.
Right.
I did that because I thought that I wasn't right with God.
Right.
You know, and so I left that divorce. Literally, I had no friends. It was hilarious, you know, to have a phone and to have nobody who cared or that would take my calls. And I just thought, I have to be able to do something here.
Yeah.
There has to be something here. And I'm like, you know what? The girl who doesn't talk, she's going to find her voice.
Yeah.
And she's going to tell you all to suck it. I went to school. Weird. I was like an honor student. What? You know, I hadn't been knocked up for my last child, which I love. I thought of going to law school. How was that possible for somebody who wasn't college material?
Right.
How do I do what I do now for somebody who wasn't college material? And so I look at that, again, as a multicultural woman. I look at what my children have been through. I've said this to Nixie, that, and not that you can't understand this, but as somebody who is a minority, who was at the time especially married to someone who's minority, white people got paid more. They were given more opportunity. They were prettier in the sense that people thought white people should be. I was never going to fit that.
I agree with you. Yeah.
And so it was kind of those things together, you know, and being the troublemaker, I did say, this is not okay with me. And again, and listen, I'm not going to say that I could have made my first marriage, had we not been in the church, but the damage was so severe and he had chosen the church view over me.
Yeah, he did.
That he sold me out. There was no way that was going to. Now, again, I wasn't ready to get married, blah, 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 but we didn't have a chance because of how he allowed the church to treat me. And he was very angry with me that I didn't fit into that church mold.
Right.
It was, there's Tracy getting in trouble again, or there's Tracy getting in trouble with so-and-so. And I did create a lot of waves. And now I look back, I think, wow, what a badass. But at the time, I felt so alone.
Yeah.
I felt like, how am I going to do this?
Right.
You know, have I lost friends that I never thought I would lose? Yes. But at the end, I think, then you know what? I'm not going to apologize anymore for who I am.
I think it's really important that you're saying that, Tracy. I'm listening to you, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about different cults and stuff, and it's like the same message where people feel like they they're so afraid. And for you to come out and be able to say it, I think it's going to help people to say, like, you're empowering people, you know, like with the little power that you feel, like if you're vocal about it, you'll become who you're supposed to be. And
there's been backlash with that.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter because you're going to be authentically who you're supposed to be, you know, and feel comfortable. It does. All that stuff, because everybody has a different experience. It's not, I mean, this is about cults in general. Right. This is what happens. This is the pain that you're experiencing. And even if you don't even realize that, I mean, we've talked about how we came in and we actually participated. Right. You guys worked for the cult. Yeah. I was in leadership with the cult, and I carry that. And any opportunity that I have to apologize and to say, man, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, to influence someone or to put them in a place where, you know, they can't function in life. We don't know where people are coming from. I think people are looking to be part of something and
looking to be loved
or whatever, you know, you're looking to be part of something, to be loved, to connect. I think in general, I think it's really important to talk about these things because people always feel that way. And when people who are listening and who are, you know, who are like, do I want to be part of this organization? Do I want to be part of this? They can hear you speak. I'm like this. I mean, I'm like, listen, I'm entranced by what you're saying, even though I didn't know. I was there, but I didn't know. Why didn't I know? Because I was in denial.
No,
I was in the bubble.
You know, you were doing exactly what was expected.
Right. And it's like, it's like.
We were all in our own battle.
I know, but sometimes we could say we were our own common enemy because we also participated and we in this ugly until we left and we're like, oh, no, you know, this is not okay. And I think that that's really important for people to hear. It's like even people who are in something and they're it's like we have to live by our conscience. It's almost like we're giving our conscience over to something else and to somebody else or to some other belief, even though we know, like there was a part of me that was so broken and I became part of this because I was so broken and it was giving me some kind of relief, but then it really wasn't because it was such a heavy burden and a heavy responsibility.
It's a heavy balloon.
It's a heavy balloon. And so I'm listening to you. It's like we never meant what we meant to do is something good, but we need to.
It was exploited.
And yeah, it was exploded. It was exploited and we almost
turned into something else.
Exactly. And so even if intentional, unintentional, like I don't want to judge people because I feel like.
Well, I want to judge people.
No. And I know that no, there's some people definitely I judge, you know? There's some people that try to apologize to me. I'm like, no, bitch, I cannot forgive you. Sorry.
But that's
you went too far.
Part of you.
Yeah, and it is because I feel like there's some people who don't realize it, but there's some people it's in their nature.
Well, no, I even take it a step further back. The people that really were abusive to me, two things. They either, the main common thing is they did think they were better than me. And, you know, you can say, oh, I did this because blah, 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 blah. There were some people who were empathetic by nature. I would list you as one of them. We didn't, obviously you and I didn't have enough interaction to know.
I totally agree.
But I would be told, go yell at somebody. And they're like, did you yell at them? I'm like, I sure as hell did. And I didn't. I took them out to eat. Yeah. Or we sat down and cuddled and watched movies because we were so afraid. Yeah. And so there were those kind of people. And when later in life, or in my life in the cult, I would hear things that would happen to people and I would make 10 phone calls. Mm-hmm. I would be calling people, you're going to meet with me right now with so-and-so, and you're going to apologize to them. And maybe they did. And that's the empathetic part of me that hurts for people more than it might hurt for myself.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, you know, when I look at people, and again, I'm trying to, but there's a part of people that really did believe they were better.
I think
we get paid more because we were better than you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm prettier than
totally
you.
agree
I
with
remember
that.
this one woman telling me, you still know what it was like. Because when I was expected as a model and I was the blah, blah, I'm like, F you. You know, there was time I was almost pulled into a car. I was lucky to get out of the sexual assault. It was in Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
I showed up at a meeting and I told people what had happened to me.
You showed up at a church meeting.
Yes, with women. And I said, a man tried to pull me in a car. He had no pants on, blah, 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 blah. And she said, that happens to me all the time. Why do you think you're special? Let's move on. Is this going to dictate your day? And again, my ex-husband listened to that person. Mm-hmm. So I go through something incredibly traumatic. Oh my God. Because basically she was saying she's so good looking, it happens to her all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it just happened to you once. Please, bitch, you know? So it was still it wasn't until the Me Too movement that I thought, that was something that happened to me that these people refused to admit.
Right.
Or I was asked to hide sin for other people and take the blame for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Me too.
Big shit from people who were leaders. You got to do whatever it takes to protect so-and-so and so-and-so. We're having you take the blame. And I was like, and I did. Mm-hmm. Big, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
And it was hardcore. And I do remember, I never shared this with you. This is another one. I was hiding out in your house.
Okay.
And you said, you have the right to leave. I would leave your husband right now.
I did. Okay, wait. Come on. Give me a high five.
Wait. No, it gets better.
I'm very proud of myself.
And you said, I would run from here as fast as I could. Go back to your mom's house. And so I went back and told this lady, Bev, what you said. And she said,
okay, wait.
Yes.
Okay, we know who you are.
And she said, well, does she have to live your marriage? I'm like, oh, shit. No. But you had given, and you're going to know when I say this now, you had given me the keys to your Ford Explorer at the time.
Okay.
Where I got a ticket and forgot about it.
I don't remember
and
that.
your church, oh my God.
I don't remember
and
that.
your church, I forgot about it totally. Because again, I'm in panic mode. The church gave me 3 days to move. I was told by the elders I was never to bring it up again. I didn't in my own marriage for over 11 years.
Okay.
I got a ticket in your Ford Explorer. And I forgot to tell you. And later on, your ex-husband said, did you get a ticket in this? You're like, what the F? I don't know what you're talking about. It was a huge parking ticket that was from me.
Okay.
Anyway, everyone's like, no spiritual person would have given you that advice. And I'm like, that was the one time in my life where I thought, finally, I have an out. That would have saved me half. Of course, I wouldn't have had my children, blah, 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 blah. My point is, when somebody tells you how you're going to even react to horrible things and you're going to take the blame. I was told this person that my ex had an emotional affair with that was not even going to be in the building, and she walked in. And I was told you're going to go to counseling with her. You're going to wear a dress, one of her dresses, to a function because you don't have any money.
Wow.
And you're going to have to hold her in the fetal position and listen to her.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I held her. She apologized and then continued to want to leave with my ex-husband.
Look at her face. Wait, look at Nixie's face.
And so
what is happening?
I couldn't tell my best friends what had happened. It was an emotional affair.
What?
But I couldn't tell my best friends what had happened because this was a leader and their offspring. You have 3 days to get out of your house. Don't tell your friends or your family, and never repeat it to your ex-husband ever again. And I did. I did exactly what they wanted me to do. No wonder why I couldn't eat a meal.
Wow.
So many years later, I got divorced. This woman popped up on my Facebook. Let's call her Becky. And she requested to be my friend. And I wrote back, are you fucking kidding me? Still in the church.
I'll come here.
Still, I don't care how old you were. We were friends. We were very close in age.
Yeah.
At the time. And I could not believe the audacity that the people of this place had to think I had to overlook it. The body shame, I had to wear her clothes to an event.
God.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking because
God.
I know you're like, no.
Oh.
Shut the front door.
Oh my.
It happened.
No, I believe
why
it
meet.
because I know because Chele and I have been close for a long time, and I saw her like Chele and her church husband lived with us for a while because
we did.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, thank God! I had to. Okay, that's
no, they moved in with us.
Oh, Lord.
But I didn't. We like the church was trying to get
They can tell you who to live
my
with.
church husband and
Yes.
me to work for the church. And I said, no, thank you. I'm going to college to be a teacher. Okay. And he wanted to work for the church.
Material.
You know, I was just like, and he's
okay,
like, no,
right.
I did not live the end of it because I moved for the church from a different area. They moved us, like, we got married and I had no idea I was going to live because the elders got together with us right before our wedding and said, hey, you know, we want you to lead the church and, you know, in this area and blah, 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 blah.
Because there was some Asian in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Asian and Hispanic.
Oh man,
Ooh,
we're
you're
on.
like gold.
Okay, yeah, we were like
Yeah,
gold.
I remember.
Especially because you know in this
Right.
area there's a mix of that. And so we went on our honeymoon. We had no idea where we were going to live when we got back. So
Right.
they told us we were going to live when we moved, and it was such a it was so different for us, you know. And just to think because I know like what you're saying. Because they wanted us to work for the church, but I also thought, you know, like this, I can't do it, you know. And I know, you know, because Chele, I saw Chele go through all of these things. Like she worked her ass off.
24 hours a day.
24 hours.
we
And
did.
she was she had so much anxiety because
Yeah.
she had something, she had a twitch, you know, and everything, you know, because she was trying to manage her
How she
family
ate
life.
salad was a whole nother thing.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to get
Oh
to that
no,
later.
don't get me started on how her ex ate nuts, you know, because it was like,
Just
Oh,
wait until
man.
he spits an orange in your face.
oh my god.
Do you remember that
So-
one?
Oh my god.
You remember that one? I could top you on that one, girlfriend.
Oh, but then I saw I felt like they were trying to move us up into working for the cult, and I'm like, no, I'm
well,
not.
that was the goal.
But I
Something
was able to
spiritual.
from the outside, like right there. I feel like I was like on the edge and seeing what you guys were going through and what they were asking of you. I mean, we're talking about you guys were like below the high leadership. The high
Well, let me-
leadership
let
were
me-
living in like
Let me scare you even more. Me and my church husband at the time had found favor with somebody who was working with, what do we call the leader of the whole thing?
Kip McKean.
Right,
Oh,
right
we
now.
can say
Oh,
his name
oh.
because he's batshit crazy.
At the time, in the teen ministry, my church husband and I had crazy numbers. We were doing well,
Oh, you were converting a lot of people.
and we were very successful.
Yeah,
And we found favor with Kip at that
because you were
moment.
recruiting a lot of people.
And our events were high quality, and that was very threatening to the people that we were at locally.
Yes.
So at the time, I was expected to be at a meeting with this person and Kip. I was given 11 minutes, me and my ex were given 11 minutes to go from Brentwood to where we were at in Diamond Bar.
11.
11 minutes. And when I didn't, this shorter person, let's call him Bob, said, "You remember who signs your paychecks?" And I was having a smart ass moment. And I had very few because I barely spoke. And I said, well, ADP does, the payroll company. You actually don't sign anything. But because we had found favor with this person was trying to, maybe we should hire them full time over here.
yeah.
It was a threat to someone else.
Correct.
The other thing that it was scary, and when I tell people, well, what makes it a cult? What makes my experience Scientology like, Nexium type? I was involved, sadly, with the arrangement of marriages.
Right. Me too.
And I know somebody who I met, has been married for a long time and said, I know I was arranged in a marriage. I don't know what to do. And here I am 30 years later. I was told by certain people, different elders, you get her married or I'm coming back for her and I'll take her to my state and get her married. Mm-hmm. I was told by this one person who came to me and later on said, I'm not in a cult. I said, I stopped you from marrying so-and-so while we were taking your tithe money while you lived in a converted garage.
Pretty sure you were in a cult.
I threw myself and said, don't let them get married.
Yeah.
These people cannot be married. I went to places where for sure we thought they're going to get married. Let's just make it happen. I mean, arranged marriages, that makes us no different at the time than the polygamous world.
I know.
That arranged marriages.
Right.
I had a bridal shower where the family from the groom was there, the wife, the soon-to-be wife, they're still married, didn't know his birthday.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, their work, for some reason in Hebrew we say, Baruch Hashem, they stayed together. But people that I was told to get married, they either did or they didn't. But a lot of those, I was like, okay, we can make that work. And I was a little competitive silently. I was more of the silent type, where I'm like, okay, on. Mm-hmm. See you at the altar in 30 days, because that's how fast we marry people.
Right.
And I will add, some people, you and I know this, where if the bride couldn't afford a dress, we pulled a dress off of somebody else.
Of course.
To get them married.
Right.
And so when people say, and I know when I was the first of my friends, because I got divorced a little bit before you.
Yeah.
And somebody said, oh my gosh, you're changing the stats. And I'm like, of what? Because we used to say,
changing the stats of divorce.
No two people in the church have gotten divorced. Yeah. You're changing it. And I'm like, I don't think we have a brochure, first of all. I don't think that's on the website.
No, you and I were two of the first.
Right. But later, I'm going to say I was there first.
You probably were.
But my whole point is arranged marriages. People that I knew were gay.
Yeah, I know.
We forced to marry other people.
Right.
Some didn't work. Surprise. Some did. Good luck. And I remember this one person gloating. He's like, well, I bet you didn't see this coming. I'm like,
yeah, I did.
As he's shaking his head in his Versace, I'm like, well, this is good luck.
Right.
Because we saw it coming. We knew it.
Yeah.
The numbers were on a piece of paper for you and I. Get these two married. And we said, okay.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to already have been married, ahead of time. But it's, again, when you have that perspective of people and when you have people looking down on you because you didn't get married in the church. Oh, they were sinful when they came in. They're not going to be as nearly as godly as us, but we lost it before you, Right. It was kind of those things where that's what makes us dangerous. Our money, what we can do to relationships, that we can teach you to hit your babies.
Right.
With a spatula or spoon. We can take your money and from a 501c, understanding now, we can take your tithe money. You're going to get it back, and we're going to take that too.
Yeah.
That is where the crime is committed.
Correct.
The crime is also committed when something happens and someone doesn't have the ability to go to the authorities.
Or speak up for themselves.
Or
verbalize what's happened.
That is when you are in a cult. When I say I want to leave, I couldn't leave. I saw it and I was looking for it because I don't know, maybe really Pollyanna deep inside. I thought if I go to this counselor for 3 years, he's going to write me a note. And I'm going to take that note to my leader and he's going to say she's free to go.
It doesn't work that way.
And it didn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way, yeah.
But even during that time, I tithed enough to get into an audit mess. That was $18,000 for me to leave.
On top of what you'd already given.
Right. And then again, people mocking us. And again, the people who made more because they were Caucasian. We already had a house. We didn't have any of that. And then you took all our money and then you mocked us and made fun of us for having less.
Correct. You know what I call that?
Bullshit.
I call it bullshit, of course. But the analogy that I use, people that stab you in the back, but then blame you for bleeding.
Well,
no, but think about that.
No,
for a second.
It is. It absolutely is. But at the same time, again, it's all self-awareness. In the Talmud, in our Jewish texts, we say the greatest form of wisdom is kindness. Mm-hmm. And so I can look back now and be kind, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to tell you the truth.
Right.
And so we had this one person in particular. It's hard for me because he's passed away. He was overweight. And my ex-husband was in charge of him. They were close friends.
SU?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he was so overweight. And of course, it was all physical based where we were at, where you and I were at the time.
Yep.
They told him to weigh him. Yep. Get a scale.
And weigh him.
Every time you get together. So my ex-husband, it was his friend at the time. And he said, I'm not going to do that. And we got yelled at. Weigh him. Put him on a scale. So one time we come back and we were in front of all of our leaders. I remember you being there. And they said, well, how's so-and-so doing? And my ex-husband said, well, he's still fat. Because the thought of putting his best friend on a scale. was not going to happen. So when you call me to apologize for how you treated me, but you don't acknowledge the other stuff you said, because it was this woman who was my close friend, and we're okay now in some ways, but you can't admit that you said something that horrible about somebody. So this person died. I had left the church. I was already Jewish. I had taken one of my kids with me. I was surrounded by people in the church, including your former church husband. And I will say I've gotten negative correspondence from your church husband about me leaving Jesus. I know exactly where he's at. I'm just Jewish. We went to this funeral and there were tons of people from this church, but because he had left the church, nobody would speak on his behalf in the eulogy. So I don't want to say grow balls, because balls are sensitive and they don't have a lot of purpose after childbirth. I realized I had a vagina. So I grew a vagina. Yeah. I took my youngest child up in front of all these hundreds of people, and I helped say something about this man's death. And I looked at your church husband at the time and looked at him like, I know you. I looked at my former ex-husband and said, I cannot believe you can't come up here and say anything.
Yep.
Finally, one other person did, a close friend, but after me, just speak on this man's good character. But because he had left the cult, he was not worthy.
Correct.
From my church husband and your church husband. I'm not trying to pick on you and make you cry. I apologize.
It's fine.
But these men in this cultic mindset could not say anything nice about this man. The same person we had talked about before, CJ.
Yeah. I
had a friend that could not have children at the time, was looking through adoption agencies. And so later on said, she needed a letter from her discipler. And the discipler, who had been told by this CJ, and the discipler told this woman, who was the most magnificent and still is one of the most magnificent mothers I've ever seen. She said, I can't find anything nice to say about you.
Yep.
And I went back to this woman and said, did you really say that? I wrote the letter. This woman adopted. She had more children of her own. I believe she's still in church. She's probably a model of mothers that I look up to.
Yeah.
But to be told by somebody from the church, because you weren't bringing in the numbers, when you needed a letter for adoption, that I can think of nothing good to say about you.
Right.
And people stayed, and that couple stayed in the church.
Right, because it's all they knew.
Because it's all they knew.
It's all they knew.
So again, I look like the Hellraiser coming in. But again, to not be able to say something nice at somebody's eulogy, to not be able to say something nice about somebody who isn't bringing in numbers. And a matter of fact, the CJ person said, I need you to fix her face. And I said, what does that mean? She said, because she doesn't look at me with respect. I don't like the way she looks at me. I said, that's her face. That is her face.
Yeah.
And she said, you need to fix it. How am I going to fix somebody's face? And later, the same CJ person that I've complained about, when they got a promotion, when 30, 40 people had asked for them not to get a promotion.
And I remember that.
They were given the promotion, and this one leader said to me, I saw your face. I saw your face during my promotion, and I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
That is the cult. And that is the danger that we have to warn people. It can happen in Christianity. It happens way more than you think. Don't look down on the people that have been in sex cults or Scientology or whatever it is, because it can happen anywhere.
To anyone.
And we need to teach our children. When I finally had the guts to write this couple who leads a lot of the church, and I said, this is what you did to me. I gave them facts, incidents, not my feelings. There was no feelings whatsoever. And she said, I hope that my children would feel like blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I hope my children will know it's okay to mess up, to own who they are and change.
Right.
Never heard back from her again.
Of course you didn't. I know who you're talking about.
You know how, because we've talked about it.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
about.
And
I've helped people, and as I've told people, write anyway. Write anyway so that they know they're not okay. So when I hear people say, oh, it's different now, because the whole level of people that were annihilated by bad decisions, we're gone.
Yeah.
We are gone.
We're gone.
Are burned. The people are left under us that we protected. I said, I protected you. I had you not marry this person. you lived in a garage. You were made to live with me and my ex-husband at the time in a 1-bedroom apartment. When we kicked you out 6 months later, we got in trouble.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yeah.
So it's those people have been wiped. So of course they can say we're different now. But I tell you what, this is also where the crime is committed. They needed that church to stay open so that they can have jobs.
Correct.
So that they can still have retirement accounts kept open and a place for their taxes. Because if they know they should have closed, but how are they going to have all that? Where are they going to go after something that horrific? They're not going to go nowhere. So they had to do whatever it took to take that down.
Right. Because Tracy, what are these people going to do in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s?
60s and 70s at this point.
What are they going to do now for an income?
Right.
So they have to make this true. They have to make it work.
But when
they have to fight us.
But when I hear, and I wrote a letter to somebody who did have a great, 19 years later. I will give her credit for that. But you know what? I wrote her 19 years later. She should have written me 10 years earlier.
I know.
And she should have gone through and go, ooh, I remember treating her like dog poop.
Right.
And those are the people, she should have called me. You're a good Christian. You should have called me way earlier, baby.
Right.
And you don't get to do this or now. And again, I say this online from your ex-church husband.
Yes.
That have gone against me since now that I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
And have been for the last 15 years. They've come after me.
Yeah.
And I've gotten hate. I mean, hate like you haven't seen. And now I say, you tell me something different. Because you know it's true. You tell me something different. Mm-hmm. And they have nothing.
Right. And that's what I'm coming up against now, where I have offered, sit down with me with the Bible on your turf with your people.
You don't even have to use a Bible. Use a dictionary at this point.
Right,
the stuff is so clear.
But Tracy, I'm saying to them to make them feel comfortable.
But I think
sit
the
down
other thing
with
that
me.
helps is when people know your story, as I met with people, and I've met with many people to say, and just because I have a good memory, this has much money that this man has stolen from these people.
Correct.
Why haven't you done this? Or this person purposely foreclosed so they could live a glamorous life.
Sure.
And then move to Laguna Beach.
And then preached how you claim bankruptcy
right.
to
And
succeed.
Your
Correct.
American right is to claim bankruptcy.
Yeah, they preach that in the church. You know that, right?
I do.
Yeah.
And this is your American
That's the
right.
thing.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
And so
It's the law of the land.
And I've said, like I said, I've had people into my home for Shabbat dinner to talk through things. But again, the people that are still in the church didn't let me go past their backyard.
Of course they didn't.
Or said, my kids can't play with you anymore.
Right.
So now that I have a more social presence, now that I'm more me.
Yeah.
They're, oh, Tracy, we always loved you. I'm like, bullshit. You're okay with me now, but don't think I'm not going to have a talk with you when we're alone.
Or you don't remember.
Here's the jacked up part to that is I remember. And so I had somebody come stay with me in my house that my husband pays for, right? Come in, and she literally said, and this was a close friend, and she said, I know you'll be back in the church.
Oh, God.
Oh God.
Jewish, innocent at GOG, I'm divorced, I know you'll be back. And I thought, isn't that cute?
It's the arrogance.
It is
it's
arrogance.
The arrogance.
It is
it's
arrogance.
The deceived arrogance.
But and you know what? And I lost mother figures, sister figures for sure. I do not have one close relationship. I think the last 3 years I gave 7.
You mean in the cult?
In the cult.
Yeah.
I gave 17 baby showers in the last 3 years before I left for people that I knew had no friends.
Yeah.
None of those people.
Of course they don't.
And even when they were on Facebook, it's kind of like they were waiting for me to have a bad life. But even...
Because you're following Satan.
Right. And especially since I left Jesus on the side of the road.
Right.
But even having a kid couldn't even say congratulations.
Yeah, of course they can.
And I said, you know what? This is time for me to say, kiss my ass.
Right.
I've had therapy.
I know better now.
I wish you well.
Right.
But I wish you truth. And until those people...
clarity.
No, just truth. Because there is... People always say there's my truth and your truth and how you see it. No, there is one way things happened. You can perceive it different ways. But if I had to have permission to get pregnant, that's not a perception issue. That's you with a calendar sitting
Yeah.
down. So you're getting
Yeah.
a message, by the way.
Oh.
Anyway, again, I just think there's not enough, and there's cults everywhere. I'm Jewish. I'm in a very liberal group, but there are so many branches of the traditional type that are cults. There are things that I hear, I try to, and where I'm at now, somebody told me that wearing a mask was a sign of the beast. That's a big thing where I live. Oh, it's the sign of the beast, wearing a mask for COVID. And I'm like, have you not Googled that? You could save yourself in one YouTube video.
Yeah, I know.
But it's
Yeah.
that willingness to see, and people think, well, I'm just a Christian. It can't happen to me. I'm not following a UFO. I'm not castrating myself. I'm not branding myself. But they don't realize it really is the same. Hello, let me love you. Forget what I'm doing that's harsh.
Right.
Go against your family. We're going to love you because you're right with God. But if you leave me, you're not right with God.
Right.
And so that's the danger. And that's so hopefully, listen, I as with 4 kids, I want to show them, and I tell them, I want to show you how to mess up and get back up, because you're going to do it in every relationship you're
And
ever
it's okay.
in. It's okay.
It's part of
You're
the
going to learn
humanity.
something from
Yeah.
it. You have to learn from it, and it's okay.
Well,
It's okay.
Love can't be fear-based. It just can't.
It can be fear-based, but at the same time, fear is a great factor. Like, you guys were very noble in saying, I wanted to change. I didn't want to change the world. I just didn't want to go to hell. Like, the thought of that weather burning, that wasn't a good scenario for me. I don't know if I was yet at that point.
For me, I mean, after I left, that was all that I was left with.
No, I get that.
Is that, and I tried to go to other churches, but I would.
You felt phony, didn't you?
Oh my God, I cried.
Yeah,
I was
I did too.
very, very traumatized, and I still hold that really close to me, because I would try to insert myself in what I actually thought I believed, but I wanted to be something less aggressive in my life, and I could not.
It's a heavy
do it.
balloon.
And I said, I'm done. I'm not doing. And from that day on, I feel at peace that I'm like, I am going to go by my conscience, and I believe in a higher power, but I cannot mix myself into this organization where humans are involved. And that's where I've been
but
left.
you can take that. You really can take that, because it took me a long time to even fill out a membership form for the synagogues that I go to. And they didn't understand why. They're like, wow, she's really uncommittal. And for me, it was it can be, but knowing the ability to walk away. And I've been in other situations now where I see, I'm walking away. And I have that ability now where I didn't have that before. Or you can take this from me, but I hold a great responsibility from where I'm at now. But I say, my daughter's cheer competition is coming up. Take over. See you later. Because I now have that. I'm enough. When you have me here, I'm enough. Whether it's in a church. Again, I'm a little lucky because I got to disconnect completely from Christianity, because I tried going to Christian churches and it wasn't a feel for me. I've had great people help me restore that. But it's why it's a danger and why we need to talk about it more.
Well, guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap up for now. We're gonna what?
We're going to eat.
We're gonna eat. We're gonna all eat. Sorry, but here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap up for now, and you've convinced me. We're gonna have to do a part 3.
Okay.
So this is part 2. I would like the people that are watching to know that none of my notes, not one did we get
Oh,
to.
Nixie. Oh, Nixie.
Not one.
I blame
So
Nixie.
I was just
she's just listening in.
I was enthralled. I was like,
We-
wow.
We also didn't do our quote of the day.
Oh,
So we're going to do that in part 3.
Okay.
It's a good one. So I'm going to
I
say
gave you one. It was just from the Talmud.
that's true. That's
Okay.
true. So this was part 2. We're going to have to do a part 3, which I'll talk to our producer about, because we're going to have to do that ASAP. Because I do want to get into the leadership stuff and the leadership stories that we have. So we'll do that next time.
Okay.
But you know what? I think this was perfect because I feel like we had to get all of that good, juicy meat that you were sharing to even understand talking about the leadership and why we would do these things.
Right.
So when we get into the leadership, we'll pick that back up. Very sorry, Nixie. We're going to have to be back
I would love to
to your
I was like
house.
already with the wine.
I know. So we'll be
I know where
back.
the bathroom is.
Yeah. We'll be back. And I don't think it's far from you.
It's not.
Where you live. So we're going to have to do part 3. A really cool thing is we've never done a part 3. So that's how really intrigued and amazing you are that you have now spurred a part 3.
Just threw up all over you.
You did. I love it. It's called the vomit draft.
You know what? And that's okay.
It's okay. In writing, it is called the vomit draft. I love it. Okay. So I'm going to use part 1's quote because I'm going to save the quote I had for part 3 because it's going to make more sense when we do the leadership conversation. So in light of everything we just shared, let's go ahead and read the gaslighting quote again. Spiritual gaslighting is the process of trying to condition you to believe the problem isn't the abuse itself, but instead your reactions to their abuse, calling it crazy, sinful, or bitter. And I believe we just put legs and flesh on this quote with our conversation. Mostly you did, Tracy, so thank you. So we will be back.
I was going to thank my therapist, but I don't think I should name them mine.
You can thank them in general. You thank your therapist.
Thank my therapist.
I thank my therapist.
And my good rabbis.
And I thank the free therapy we just had here
I
today.
don't have a therapist anymore.
You got a free,
I
girl.
a lot of therapy.
Oh my gosh, I'll get you
But
one.
you guys are giving me therapy now because honestly, I have buried so many of these feelings deep inside. I'm like, this is not part of my life anymore. But I think that in general, like, it is good to talk about these things. Even, when you guys talking to my husband, he's like, I didn't know all this stuff because I stopped talking about it a long time ago because it was like, that's just how I did. I'm like, that's dead. Move on. And plus I was dealing with so much trauma from the after effects that I went through
The
therapy.
trauma recovery process.
Yeah. Where everything falls apart.
Yes.
There's a
Your
little
whole,
beauty in there.
where your whole life implodes. You
Right.
know?
I'll tell you, even in the mess of that, there's a little beauty that you do get to take with you. I take 2 children with me. I take the ability to throw an event well and throw a service well in Hebrew now that came from those areas. But just a little bit of beauty came through with me. And I'll take that.
And I call those party favors.
And I'll take those.
We call them cult party favors.
I love it.
Okay, so we will definitely do part 3. Thank you. My favorite people on the planet, for sure.
I do want to come in and want it on video that I do want to come in just to say hello to Hoyt.
Yes, we should bring you into the studio and you can meet Hoyt.
I would like to.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll wear the hat and bring my mug. You don't have to give me
Oh,
notice.
wait, the hat. If anyone wants a hat, come on. Look, Tracy made me take the hat off because she wanted to see my eyes.
Well, no, I just didn't want people to think you're running from anything.
I'm not running from the law. That's not why I had a hat on. Or
You're just leading the flock.
I'm just leading
Thank you.
the
You're
X
welcome.
the X flock. But yes, we do have hats. We're making those in black if anyone wants one. Anyways, guys, as usual, I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. Literally, I already read the quote, but remember, do not give the keys of your life to anybody else. Nobody should have control of your mind and your thoughts except you. And we will see you next time.